It's time now for a look latest in local news. In the news, the Wayne County Commissioners met Monday night for their regular monthly meeting. On the agenda was the approval of the 2021 budget. Last week for 2 days, the Administrator, Ed Jeffers, and Commissioners met with various department heads and went over each department's budget with the hopes of having it approved at the Monday board meeting. The proposed budget by the Administrator, Ed Jeffers, totals $24,400,889. It's an increase of $834,306 from the 2020 budget. The budget passed last night by a vote of 3-2 as Commissioners Ralph Hickox and Kevin McCrary voted against the budget. Motion made by the Chairman Herschel Hire, seconded by Mike Roberts, and the vote 3-2 with Commissioner Thomas voting yes as well. Both Chairman Harris and Commissioner Thomas commended the work that the Administrator Ed Jeffers has done and the work he did on putting the budget together during a pandemic year. Thomas stated that the county was in a bad financial place when Jeffers took the job, and Thomas says now they can see a light at the end of the tunnel, and he says it's not a train. Harris also praised the work of Jeffers, thanked him and the department heads who showed up for the budget discussions. Hickox says he was pleased that the commissioners got a chance last week to meet with the department heads and discuss the budget, but he says he simply can't vote for the budget because it hasn't been amended in 3 years, and he says the projected revenue, according to the auditor, is more than is being presented to the board. Here was part of the lengthy discussion at the board meeting. We'll have more later this week, but this gives you the main reason why Ralph Hickox voted against the budget.
I'm going to spend some time with our auditors today, and we're trending doing revenue according to him. 25.5 would be a safe number in revenue per year. I'm just wondering why we're not setting the budget, so we have to zero the budget. And you can always take that difference for the contingency. And also why we're not amending it after we set our millage. We set our millage at that time of the year. You have a pretty good idea. You figure the way through the year. You know what your expenses are going to be. When you set the millage, even if you base on 9% of collection, which to me it does, we have a good idea. And this year, based on the 14.6 that we collected as of October the 31st, that was before tax bills went out, we should collect, it will 100% be up 12.2. We should still be well over 25 for this year. Last year, according to our audit report, we actually, let's see, what is it? And the county increased unassigned fund balance in the general fund by $4.3 million, or over 179%. So we were actually, according to our audit report, $4.3 million more revenue last year than what we actually spent. But yet we only reduced the millage by 1. And we said it was going to lay people off, or possibly could lay people off, but we didn't. But I don't see a jeopardy in that when there's 4 points. And it also proves out in the case that we only borrowed $2 million in this year, which is because we had no liquid, which is good. It's good we got more liquid. But I think during the time of the pandemic, we could have gave people some relief too. And this is not my words, this is from the audit report that was given to us in June 2019. According to this, our projected revenue for 2019 was $23,410,000. But we actually collected 26. For 20, it's 23.5, and based on the digest, we should come in on 25 for this year. That's another $2 million. I would there to confirm that I'm not just reading this wrong. And that's not what they're saying the same thing. I'm just saying I think that the budget needs to reflect the revenue more accurately. I can respect the fact that when Mr. Jeffers came on, he tried to be conservative. That makes sense. He hadn't done it before, so a conservative estimate on the revenue makes sense. But now there's more of a track record to show that we're collecting more. We're grossly underestimating our revenue. I think we need to put it where it should be and account for it through, you can account the difference through contingency, but at least you're accounting for all the money. Like we're doing right now, we're not even amending. We haven't amended the 2019 budget. We haven't amended the 2020 budget. Our auditors put in a report both years that we're supposed to be amending on a regular basis, monthly preferably. We haven't amended in 3 years. It's hard for me to want to push forward with the budget when we're not even amending what we've done in the past, especially when our revenues are so grossly underestimated.
Again, those comments are Ralph Hickox at last night's meeting. Once again, the vote was 3-2 to pass the budget. Again, Hickox and McCrary voted against. We'll hear from McCrary on Wednesday's newscast. Other news from the meeting, Administrator and the Commissioners approved the low bid for their tax anticipation note, which this year they're going to borrow $4 million instead of $6 million last year. The administrator stressed that it's simply borrowed when if needed. Low bid approved came from BB&T Bank, also known as Truist Bank. Voters of Wayne County in November approved the sale of alcohol in the county on Sundays. That will begin this Sunday, December 13th. But the commissioners last night voted unanimously that the time of the sales on Sunday will be from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Once again, the board tabled Development Authority and Industrial Development appointments, as one board has 4-year terms, the other has 6, kind of looking for a way to alleviate the issue, but apparently it's going to have legislative action. Attorney Andy Beaver says there simply is no easy solution. Once again, the appointment's tabled once again. Current members will continue to serve at this time. On the Heart of Georgia Altamar Regional Commission, Mike Roberts' term expired. Commissioners voted to appoint Tyrone Johnson to that position. James Thomas is the county designee. He will continue to serve on the commission. 3 tourism board appointments were reappointed Monday. Angie Parker, Adam Thomas, and Juanita Smith, all reappointed for another term on the tourism board. Under items with Administrator Ed Jeffers, thanked the board for the approval of the budget. Says he'd like to have a retreat sometime in March or April. Let's look at last night's county commissioners meeting. We'll be back with more news after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. On Monday, the Georgia Supreme Court affirmed 2 convictions in 2 Wayne County murder cases. Antonio Lanier was charged with 2 counts of murder, theft by taking of a firearm, armed robbery, possession of a firearm during the felony, and tampering with evidence in the deaths of Ada and Gerald Love. Mr. and Mrs. Love were shot to death in their home back on October 11, 2012 in Wayne County. Lanier was convicted on all counts by a Wayne County jury in February 2015. Lanier was sentenced to prison for 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus 15 years. Also, the Georgia Supreme Court affirmed the conviction of Eugenia Shell. She was charged with murder, aggravated assault, making a false statement to a law enforcement officer, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and terroristic threats in connection with the death of her mother, Miss Willie Jo Vaughn, who was found submerged in her car in the Altamar River after having been missing for a week back in November 2014. Shell was also tried and convicted by a Wayne County jury. She was sentenced to prison for 2 consecutive life sentences, plus 20 years. Both cases have been through the appeals process, and the convictions again affirmed by the Georgia Supreme Court on Monday. Assistant DA Thomas Buscemi represented the state on appeal in both cases. Wayne County Board of Education set to meet today at 6 p.m. at the Tech Center. On the agenda under items of business, Wayne County High School track surface, Board of Education meeting dates for 2021, wrestling hosting guidelines, COVID-19 update, the COPS grant information, strategic planning, financial management. R.J. Aldridge will present the August and September financial reports, budget calendar for fiscal year 22, and executive session. All that on the agenda for the day at 6 p.m. at the Tech Center. Again, the 2 U.S. Senate runoffs are set for January 5th. Advanced in-person voting will begin in the Wayne County Courthouse on Monday, December 14th, and run through Tuesday, December 22nd. The time each day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then Wednesday, December 23rd, from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. The office will be closed Thursday and Friday, December 24th and 25th for the Christmas holiday. They'll reopen for advanced in-person voting on Monday, December 28th, and run through December 31st from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you're on the elderly disabled list, you'll receive your ballot shortly. Please be sure to sign your oath envelope before returning. Do not print. They must verify all signatures with each voter registration card. If you've requested an absentee by mail ballot, you cannot vote during advanced voting on an election day without the ballot being canceled. They encourage you to bring your ballot with you if you decide not to use it, or an affidavit must be signed. Early voting at the courthouse will be observing social distancing. Hand sanitizers will be at each voting booth, and poll workers will be sanitizing after each voter. All poll workers will be wearing masks. Voters are encouraged to wear a mask, but it's not mandatory. Masks and gloves will be available upon request. Handicapped and over 75 years of age voters should enter the courthouse via the handicap entrance, where they'll be given priority voting per federal law. Drop boxes are open and located at the Wayne County Courthouse, City Hall in Odom, and City Hall in Scriven for your convenience. If you have any questions, again, you can call the registrar's office at 427-5950. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes news: President Trump's efforts to overturn Georgia's election results ran into 2 more walls Monday, as 2 more of the president's legal challenges were thrown out of court on Monday in the state of Georgia, and Trump's pleas to top state officials to interfere with the election have been silently rejected by the governor and Secretary of State. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger recertified Biden's win after the state's 3rd recount, once again debunked claims that the election was stolen. Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan became one of the first senior Republicans in the state to acknowledge Biden's victory in the state and state GOP leaders united to bury the idea of a special session that would seek to switch Georgia's 16 electoral votes from Biden to Trump. On Monday, Governor Brian Kemp said, quote, "Simply put, this is not an option under state or federal law. The statute is clear. The legislature can only direct an alternative method for choosing presidential electors if the election was not able to be held on the date set by federal law." Hours after Secretary of State Raffensperger recertified the election results, Governor announced that he had recertified the 16 electoral votes, the final formal step required by Georgia law. Soon after that, Trump tweeted, "What's wrong with this guy? What's he hiding?" State election officials stated again Monday that there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud in Georgia's courts have thrown out several complaints seeking to block the certification of the vote. House Speaker David Rawson says that lawmakers in the state of Georgia should be looking forward, examining any changes that might make future elections more secure rather than litigating Trump's defeat. Lawmakers don't necessarily need the governor to summon them back to session in Atlanta. They could call a special session of their own, but only if 60% of the members in each chamber agree to it in writing. That will not happen given the fact that Democrats control more than 40% of the state house. After the lieutenant governor acknowledged that Joe Biden is going to be sworn in as the 46th president of the United States, President Trump dismissed him as a Kemp puppet for refusing to reverse the election defeat in Georgia. Secretary of State says the final results show Biden's margin of victory at 11,784 votes out of some 5 billion ballots cast. In the recount, Biden's margin shrunk by 886 votes from the initial count. Raffensperger says the state counted the votes 3 times, and he says the results remain the same. Final news, don't forget the Odom Sing Around the Tree set for December 14th at 6:30 p.m. at the Odom Train Depot. Entertainment that evening by Jesup Church of God Youth Choir, Frontline Warriors, Treble Clef Studio, and Charity Woodson. As you bring your own chair, blanket, golf cart, hot chocolate, and cookies will be provided. Once again, the date, December 14th, 6:30 at the Odom Train Depot. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan said, have a great day.